love David Redden and John O'Farr and Sam Zickman, the guys that I work with over there. It's wonderful to be there, but nothing better than being back home, mate. So, yeah, look forward to seeing you and Chop tomorrow for sure.
Yes, and of course I had the week off last week as well, down with my daughter in Melbourne. So I've been on the sidelines for a week, and I'm chomping at the bit as well to get into it. It's good to be back, and we've got a really exciting week ahead of us, which is the good news.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's been some results across the board, really, in the women's and the men's cup.
Yeah, there sure has. It was sitting there on Play HQ last weekend and keeping a track on things whilst I couldn't be at the games. I was quite intrigued with what was happening, and yeah, right around the place, it was it was some interesting results in both the men's and the women's, and I don't know, it felt as though it was kind of that weekend where a whole lot of stuff happened that really livened, for my mind, the league up, and has opened up a whole heap of finals permutations, I think, too, which we'll talk about during the course of tonight. So a very interesting week for results.
No, excellent, mate. We might get the first game reviewed if that's
Let's get into it.
Right with it. Warners Bay 5-7-37. This have to be the upset of the round for sure, if not the season. 5-7-37 defeated Terrigal Avoca 2-goals 7-19, and Shane, the Dogs, they led from start to finish. Looking at the play-by-play, they caused one of the biggest upsets of the year. They beat the Panthers, and it's their first win against Terrigal Avoca in the Women's Cup since round 8, 2020. What a fantastic achievement from Amy Pittman's girls.
Oh, indeed it was. And listen, Chop and I had seen them a few weeks beforehand down at Hilton Moor when they'd really taken it up to Terrigal Avoca, and we thought that was probably their best game to date. And Amy's just built in the weeks since then, and here we are 3 or 4 weeks later, and her and the girls have taken that big scalp. I think it's fantastic for the league and fantastic for that women's program down at Warners Bay to start to get that reward for effort.
Yeah, absolutely. They've got players now that are starting to step up. You've got the experienced heads in Jazzy Wellings and Amy Pittman that do it every week for them. But now you're just seeing other players starting to come into it, like May Fletcher, Jade Moody when she's available. There's so many different permutations to that team now. They've got more than one avenue to goal. And, yeah, it's great for Warners Bay to get the win. But we also have to preface all of that. And it's one of those things where you preface it by saying that the Panthers have really struggled for numbers in the last few weeks. So it could be injuries, unavailabilities. It's looking at both sides of the coin and just saying, well, there's a reason for it. But you know what? If you're in the Bulldogs lineup and you're Amy Pittman and the girls at Faying Oval, you couldn't care less. You've got 2 wins in a row and you're going for 3 in a row this Saturday.
Yeah, that's it. Listen, good teams need good squads behind them. So it's, I suppose it's reflective of the Bulldogs program to have the depth to field the teams. And if Terrigal have fallen a little bit short, then that's something they'll need to work on. We know they're a great club, and we know how strong they are. And yeah, am I sitting here writing them off after a loss against the Bulldogs? Absolutely not. We know how strong they'll be, and they'll be a real contender for that 4th spot. But I think it's fantastic for the league that we've seen Warners Bay come along and get that win on the weekend. I think it really is great for the league itself.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. So well done to the Dogs, and we're sure that the Panthers will be back at some stage in the next 7 or 8 weeks. Cardiff, 3-goals, 15, 33, defeated Killarney Vale 1-3-9. What a scoreline. Cardiff have done it to the 2 top sides 2 weeks in a row. They're showing their class. Tara Grace Brawley and Melina Ayres shone in a one-sided affair. And, well, it was a one-sided affair after halftime anyway, because the Bombers were only 1 point behind at halftime. And I reckon they would have put themselves in the mix. But to be fair, when you look at the play-by-play scores, the Hawks' inaccurate kicking probably kept them in it. The Hawks registered their first goal 13 minutes into the third quarter after they kicked 11 straight behinds.
Wow.
11 straight behinds. So I dare say that they'd be doing some goal kicking practice in the women's division this weekend at Pasterville.
I think as a coach, you must be sitting there pulling your hair out on the sideline when you get point after point after point. There's there's not much reward for the effort there, is there? Scoring shot wise, I think, scoring shots are usually a good indicator of who should win the game. But, if you'd converted half of those points to goals, it would have been an absolute flogging by Cardiff as it was. without being there to see it, maybe the margins flattered Killarney Vale a little bit, given the sheer weight of points they scored.
Yeah, so the Premiers, they're in a little bit of trouble, having been, they've had a couple of losses and they've been served up some pretty good ones, especially against Newcastle City and Cardiff. So it'll be interesting to see how they respond. Brooke Houlihan, Taya White, and Audrey Gillingham played really well, according to the statistics there for the Bombers. They're just looking to lift now in the last second half of the year. You can lose premierships in the first half of the year, but you can't win them in the first half of the year. It's that second half of the year where you build, and hopefully Killarney Vale will find a second win and continue to build in that regard.
Yeah, and I think, for my mind now, Cardiff probably setting themselves up potentially as the premiership favourite for the last two rounds. We've seen them take the scalp of City, who were undefeated up until that game at Parsfield a couple of weeks ago, and then they come out the next week and they beat the reigning premiers in Killarney Vale. So full credit to Cardiff. They're sitting in really good form now, and if they continue this through to the finals, I think they'll be rightly so flag favourites.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And just to sum up, the last match was the Bar TV matching around. Corey might have a bit more of it when he logs back in, but Imogen Gray, Molly Jackson, and Evie Timmerman started an all-the-way win versus the Singleton Roosters, who are yet to register a win this season, unfortunately, for the girls from Rose Point Park. They matched it with them in the first quarter, but the Baddo Bay girls streaked away, winning comfortably, really. It was 5-3, 33 to 139. Margin wasn't big, but by all reports, they were really never threatened either.
Yeah, they've had a tough run of away games as well. Every week we talk about them, it seems as though they're on a road trip down to the Central Coast. So, hopefully they get a few games up at Rose Point and they get to maybe match it with some of those bottom, that second tier sides, and who knows, they might be able to scrap themselves together a win. But good for the Entrance Baddo Bay. They've had a couple of narrow losses over the last few weeks, so that win will do them the world of good for their confidence, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I'm not sure if you've got any graphics and ladders or anything like that this week. I saw that the other week. I thought, how good's this preparation?
Well, listen, the preparation is the key there, isn't it? And
Yeah.
the question you've got of me now is how prepared can I be on the fly? So let me get something happening here. We'll share over this one, and we'll see if we can bring that up. And last week, I think the problem was I managed to absolutely take away the entire the entire screen when I finished it. Let's try having a look at that. For
Here it is, beautiful. So you can see Cardiff on top of the ladder now. They've only got the match ratio is the key here at the moment. They've only got a 1.2 or 1.4 match ratio there on Newcastle City. And they've got a much better percentage than them as well. 6 wins and a loss with a bye. Newcastle City, 6 wins, 365% and 5-1. And then it's a fair drop back to Killarney Vale. Have played 8 games, Shane, but they've only got the 4 wins. So they're sitting in a very precarious position, Killarney Vale. Only about half a game, maybe 1.5 games in front of the pack in front of them, with the Entrance Baddo Bay in 4th. And Scott Gray, he would be absolutely rapt to be in the top 4 this week for the Entrance Baddo Bay girls. We know he's got a young team. They're enthusiastic. They just love their footy. The fact they've got 2 teams, Shane, is the thing that really gives the Entrance Baddo Bay some hope for the coming years, especially with their young brigade. It's great to see them in the top. Great to see them in the top 4, just quietly. Warners Bay just off the pace there, threatening if they can get another couple of wins. Their 3 wins this year, Shane, is almost as good as their entire season last year, where they only got 4 wins. Terrigal-Avoca 2-4. Not sure if you'd hit the panic station button yet there, and Singleton, be wonderful to see them get a win on the board, or at least 1 or 2 before the end of the season.
Yeah, indeed it would. It's been, I suppose, a funny year draw-wise as well when we look at it. And, we talk about Killarney Vale having the 4 losses, but they've played Newcastle City. I think, is it 3 times now they've played Newcastle City, and they've played Cardiff twice with 1 win and 1 loss. So you sort of look at that at a pure raw stats number and you go, wow, 4 losses for Killarney Vale, but you've also had 5 games against the premier sides in the Women's Cup division. So it's not all doom and gloom down in Adelaide Street for the women's by any shot, and they can still get themselves together. It does really tighten up that ladder though, and normally we're used to seeing that big gulf between third and fourth. Here we are looking at it, and it's it's not a huge difference on match ratio. So yeah, the entrance, Warners Bay and Terrigal Boca still in there with a real hunt to get that sort of third or fourth spot.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're clearly not out of it. With your goal kickers, Mia Wilson for Killarney Vale. She won the award, I think, 2 years ago. Crystal Brown was the winner last year of the goal kicking award for the Women's Cup. Mia Wilson won it 2 years ago from memory. Well, she's clearly the favourite to do it again this year and go 2 in the last 3, 10 goals in front of Amy Pittman, who tells me she wants to hear Corey give her the big nickname he gave her about 4 or 5 weeks ago. In second spot on 12, and Kate Hanley on 10, who hasn't really advanced a great deal since her for about 2 or 3 weeks. Could be injured, could be unavailable. And you can see the rest down there. Melina Ez is an interesting one. 3 games, 8 goals. And if she continues that trajectory, she'll be up there as well come the end of the season if she plays enough games.
Yeah, Mia Wilson looking almost the unbackable favourite. I think if there was a book running for the women's goal kicking award, I think I'd be putting my money on Mia Wilson there with that 10-goal break early on in the season. She's looking strong up forward. And listen, we talked about having played City 3 times and Cardiff 2 times. That means that the latter part of their season is going to be a run home against some of those lower teams. So no doubt Mia will be licking her lips when she gets some of those games as well to really add to that total. But yeah, good. Once you get past Mia, it's a fairly good even spread there on that 7, 8, 9, 10 goal mark. It's fantastic to see.
Yeah, it's terrific. Look, for mine, Mia is the premier goal kicker in the Women's Cup competition. It's great to see her up front. She's got a terrific left boot. She's wonderful on a set shot. And she's got terrific hands. She's a wonderful target for Killarney Vale. So let's hope they find her a bit more often and string a few wins together.
Yeah, that's it. I'm sure they will.
Yep, absolutely.
I'm trying to make sure I stop sharing and not stop the whole stream. There we go. Phew, that was a relief after the other week when I killed the whole stream. But we've got that one done there now.
Tech genius, mate. We'll go to the Men's Cup. Hopefully, Chop will be here very soon to give us a bit of a few talking points. He's definitely fired up. I know that much. But who was fired up on the weekend was Nathan Harkness after Warners Bay 11-9-75 defeated Nelson Bay 10-10-70. Wow, I would have loved to have been there, Shane. It was a ding-dong battle in terms of the scores and changing hands and leads moving back and forth. Warners Bay got out to a handy lead at quarter time, but the Marlins just never let go. They didn't give it up. They were physical and in a hard, hot, tense game. Anyone that was a little bit nervous or wanting to not put their head down was fumbling the footy, and they got found out on Saturday at Dick Burwell Oval. According to the coach, Warners Bay made too many errors and were punished, but they got over the line in a gutsy display. So for the winners, Zach Urisic, Seb Thomas and Connor Betts were the best. And for Nelson Bay, Lachlan Blythe, who is a very, very handy player, Jaden Reimer, a former Elliot Davey medalist and AFL prospect back when he was a lot younger, and Harrison Lack all played a role. Mitchell Hall and Wade Blackburn, who interestingly enough won an AFL Sydney Premier Division premiership last year with North Shore, kicked 3 goals each. And one of our favourite players in Bar TV, Zach Munns, the Munzilla, kicked 3 goals, and the Big Dig kicked 2 goals for the Warners Bay side. They just got over the line, Shane, and that probably shows you a few things, how good Nelson Bay are and how tough they're going to be at home, but also Warners Bay now find ways to win games rather than to just get pipped.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I think, you touched on there that, Dick Burwell Oval's going to be a tough road trip, I think, for anyone, no matter whether you're, Newcastle City or Terrigal Avoca. If you're heading down there to play them, they are going to be a tough team to beat. And I think they're going to be pretty handy at the other grounds as well, just quietly too, from what we've seen so far this season. No Billy Barton for the Marlins this week. Obviously, he's one of their spearheads. It didn't seem to bother them. They still found some avenues to goal. And conversely, for Warners Bay, no Zach Lauritsen either. So you can say, well, they were missing one of their best players, but so everyone, every week, every team's going to have ins and outs. But it feels as though a really good result for the league in pushing the Marlins up to play Cup. We know they should have been up here. We can talk all we want about the first few rounds. We know it didn't happen, but it has happened now, and it looks like it's the right call. They were certainly well in that game to literally the last few seconds. So fantastic for them to get out and have a good hit out against a legitimate top three side, and fantastic for the league as well.
Yeah, and just on the Marlins, they've got a wonderful coach in Sean McGrath. He's a very intense bloke when he's on a football field, but he's very smart football brain. And along with Wade Blackburn and Billy Barton, Jaden Reimer, they've got some really experienced, smart footballers who, at their best, are going to be a test for anyone in the comp. And I think the real test for them is going to come this weekend to just see where they measure up. Especially as they, when we go to the previews later, they'll be playing against Terrigal Avoca on Saturday at Hilton Moore Oval.
Indeed.
All right, so Cardiff, 13 goals, 987, defeated the Panthers, 9-7-61. Now, if you're watching this and you truly picked that, well, fair play to you, because I can tell you now I wouldn't have, although you guys saw Cardiff 2 weeks ago against Newcastle City push them all the way. And, yeah, I know that Chop said a couple of weeks ago they're back and they're coming. But, yeah, the Panthers, well, the story of the game, the Panthers led it by 25 points at quarter time. And they only managed 1-5 in the second term, and it was a 2-point lead to Terrigal at halftime. And then despite trailing at three-quarter time, Chris Gordon's men didn't give up. They kicked 4 unanswered goals in the final term to take the match out, and a huge upset in the scheme of the year, in the scheme of the season. Cardiff, they've really found their groove in the last 2 weeks, Shane, and it's great for the competition to see the Hawks back up and jumping about.
It is. And listen, I was one of those people that did not tick the Cardiff Hawks. I'll be very, I'll put my hand up for that one. In fact, I was involved in a chat last Friday with someone, and I think I said it'll be the Panthers by about 70 points. I was still a little bit nervous about Cardiff. I thought maybe that game against Newcastle City was maybe just you're at home, you've got the broadcast, you turn it on, and then you fall back in a heap again the week after. But they didn't fall back in a heap. We loved the spirit we saw in that broadcast game against Newcastle City, and we hadn't maybe seen it as we'd seen it in 2024, 2025. The Hawks hadn't looked like that fierce side that we'd seen the previous year, but I think they've brought that back now, and they've got that sort of fight and that spirit back again. And you don't beat Terrigal Avoca without having fight and spirit and a whole lot of class on the field. So well done, Cardiff. You've proven me wrong, and I'm really happy to say that it is fantastic to see for the league to see that result. And I said the same thing about the last game. It's great for the league. I'm saying the same thing about this game. It's great for the league that Cardiff have got this win over Terrigal Avoca. So, yeah, full credit to the Hawks. And I'm going to have to eat some of my words from a few weeks ago. And and long may they keep on rolling. So, yeah, interesting.
Yeah, if there's humble pie, it's going to be a pretty big one this week, because I reckon I'll be eating it as well. No, look, congratulations to Cardiff, but the challenge is now to keep that going. And I'm sure Gordon's got them flowing really well. Oscar Smythe, Ryan Bonham, Luca Conlon were in the best. Conlon is a really interesting footballer. He's just a hard nut, goes at it at 1,000 miles an hour. And we love those type of players. I loved watching them when I was younger. I used to like umpiring guys like that because you knew exactly what they were going to be like. And got a lot of heart and he's done beautifully for Cardiff this year. Ryan Bottom kicked a bag. I'm not sure if Chop's over that one, but he got a bag of goals.
I saw his Instagram post yesterday. We was running through the bag raiders, and he did announce that now every club has a bag raider in the men's.
Everyone's got a bag. I love it.
Yeah, he's on top of that one.
Nah, beautiful. And Sam Howard's got 3, which is a wonderful return for someone like Sam. Like that, we were talking about it on Anzac Day when he ended up playing up forward and going, "What on earth are Cardiff doing?" But it's a stroke of genius, really. Sam Howard has absolutely come on this season with his goal kicking, and it's been brilliant. The Panthers had Adam Miller, Scott Birkinshaw, and Chris Murray in their best, but does Chris Bishop, does it bother him too much? Yeah, probably. They don't like losing at the Panthers. They don't do it too often, but will it really upset the apple cart for them in terms of what they aim for in September? Probably not at this stage. If it happens again in the next month, I think they start to think about what's happening over there. But this week, I think that they'd see that as a bit of a blip on their radar.
Yeah, it might just give them a bit of a mid-season poke along too to change a few things and really, get the machine oil, put a bit more oil on the machine and get it humming along nicely to trail into the season. No Harrison Pitt for the last 2 games. I see he's named again for tomorrow, so obviously him coming back into the side will give them immediate strength back in as well. So I don't think he'll be too worried at this point in time. Chris Bishop, he'd be he knows where the season is, and he knows it's only June, and he's not winning many flags in June. He knows that.
No, absolutely. Well, Newcastle City, 20 goals, 12, 132, defeated Kalani Vale, 1 goal, 4-10. It's, Newcastle City just keep rolling on, Shane. 21-point lead at the quarter time, turned into a 54-point lead at halftime. And it's fair to say a cricket score by 3-quarter time as Kalani Vale just had no answers for the rampaging midfield and a forward line which read Jordan Deere, Ethan Maher, and Oliver Gilmore. Now, Oliver Gilmore's a really good first-grade player back a few years ago, but he's more known now for having won a goal-kicking award in the plate competition, I believe, last year. He kicked 4 goals. They lost by 122 points. The Bombers. Tractor kicked the bag, and Oliver Gilmore kicked 4, whereas Jordan Kenobi was the goal scorer, and he was in the best with Bobby and Burton Leitner. Not sure. The golfing class between Newcastle City and Kalani Vale is just huge. I mean, they've played each other a few times now, and they haven't got near them. So you dare say that the Bombers probably sit where they sit a little bit because of the draw, but I think their season's not over, but it's going to be a struggle.
Yeah, as much as we said, Chris Bishop probably isn't too worried at this time of the year with his team. I think Corey Shacken would be a little bit worried with his team. They have been unfortunate enough to have to play City 3 times now, which is no fun for anyone. Of course, they're a tough side and they're well drilled, and they're gonna bring it up to you. But I suppose the size of the result is probably the disappointing bit there. We've seen them play 3 times, but this is by far and away their worst result of those 3. So, yeah, I think it's a little bit worrying down at Adelaide Street, and I don't know what they can do to correct that. It feels as though that's going to be a bridge too far for them there. And if you look at it, Gilmore did well there to get the goals for City. Of course, no Woodhams for City, so he's lost his goal kicking lead there with the big tractor getting his bag. You just wonder what the score would have been if they had a Woodhams in that forward line as well, whether or not it would have been a little bit, even a little bit worse. So, yeah, some troubling times down at Adelaide Street for their men's team for sure.
Yeah, Jack Woodhams in that team would have been absolutely scary. Well, Bar TV matching around. Maitland against the entrance Bateau Bay. Maitland haven't won a game since June 15 last year, and the last team they beat was the entrance Bateau Bay. On that occasion, it was 135-15. On Saturday on Bar TV, Maitland 11-13-79 notched their first win of the season by defeating the entrance Bateau Bay 10-9-69. The story of it, Shane, they just jumped the entrance Bateau Bay early. They kicked the first five of the first 6 goals, and I watched the last 20 minutes of that game, and I reckon if the entrance Bateau Bay had another 15 minutes, they may have just caught Maitland, but you cannot give side starts, and it doesn't matter which team it is. You cannot give a side 5 or 6 goal start and expect to run them down, especially when you got a young, hungry team like Maitland that just want their first win, and they did it well. They were headed up by Jack Ellis and Riley Newstead and a young man by the name of Billy Ellis, who's 16 years old, played his first game of Cup, and it's his first year of under-17s, and he got 2 goals to steer the Saints to a win as we welcome the man that called the game. It might be a better synopsis coming from Corey Hopper. How are you tonight, mate?
Good evening, gentlemen. The three Mike's-keteers. That was hard to get out, that word, but Mike's-keteers. That's a play on the Three Musketeers, but with microphones. Are we back together this weekend, boys, or
We're
not?
back together this
Absolutely,
weekend.
mate.
100%.
Thank goodness. You know,
He gets his
I
voice
think
back.
we had a world record viewer dropout midway through the game last week because they were that sick of my voice. It was out of control. So, but
Well,
are you boys moved on to men's cup already?
We've
done a review of the Women's Cup. We haven't looked at the games ahead yet.
we haven't looked ahead.
We've reviewed the men's games as well. We're just up to that Maitland win that we were so excited about. So we're probably thinking we should throw over to yourself to get a bit of a synopsis because it was a fast start.
Great idea.
Being run down by Sparrow Bay.
Well, they hadn't won a game, Maitland, since June 15 last year, mate. So it's a massive win.
Yeah, it was a massive win, and I've got to say, well deserved. I don't think they've been far off Maitland, really. Probably, perhaps, just getting used to new coach and a few big players leaving there probably has just kept them a little unsettled. But from what I saw from both of the sides on the weekend, they are going to have an influence in the finals contenders, in the final standings between now and the end of the year. There's no doubt about that. I get the feeling that both of these sides are capable of beating some side higher above them that is really pressing for finals this year, because there's a few of them, and possibly even breaking the hearts of a club this year, because there was a gallant effort from both of these two sides. They're fighting it out to not get the wooden spoon at this stage, and of course we know the entrance Sparrow Bay had a great first up win against them up at Maitland in round one. So there was a bit of, I guess perhaps retribution. I can see a really strong rivalry growing between these two clubs over the next few seasons as they emerge. And there's big future ahead for both of them. There's no doubt about that. The big thing I wanted to point out was I nearly jumped out of my seat in that last 5 minutes or so of the game. I don't know if you saw it.
I did, yeah.
Thinking about our Bar TV live, our broadcasts, the last 2 weeks in particular, go back and watch the last 10 minutes of the last two games, and you'll see they've been absolutely riveting. And especially, doesn't matter if they're two sides at the bottom of the ladder or whether they're two sides that played out a premiership last year. They were just two really great finishes, and we're seeing that as a bit of a consistent theme through the course of our Bar TV broadcast a little bit this year, and I think this weekend's going to be no different. But some rising stars coming out of it, and some big stars that were out of the game on the weekend too, had, I think, a fairly telling influence in the final standings. Bennett's Inkster played, as you know. I think he only got one or two in the end. Scott Reed had a tremendous game, multiple goals for him. But no Hoffloader, no Ryland Hoff. Got a chance to chat with him at half time. And have a little interview with him on the sidelines. And Maitland still had so many avenues to goal. Did you mention Billy Elliott? I think I heard Billy Elliott. Billy Ellis. Billy Elliott.
Yeah, Billy Ellis. I think he's only 16.
Yeah, well, he came off with an injury, I think it was the third quarter. But, mate, far out. Him and his brother Jack burst out with the first 2 or 3 goals, I think, for the game between them, and just sharing the ball amongst themselves. So, some bright future there. But the midfield for Maitland, I think this is where they won it. They were on right from the start, and they're clearly benefiting from having Ryland Hoffman down there in the forward line, because they've got a reliable target that they can actually aim for. Billy Ellis looked like he was going to be the perfect, foil for Ryland, the big offloader up there, because he was taking marks and presenting well and kicking goals. It looked really dangerous until he came off. Hopefully it's not too serious what happened to him. But Maitland looked like they're getting their bit together. And in the flip side to that, the entrance Sparrow Bay, who by my insider reports have been a bit off in recent weeks, just playing good football for portions of the game. The weekend was no different, but they finished so good. Like, they were red hot in the end. And once they string 4 quarters of that together, they're going to trouble anyone in the league. They really will. I truly believe that. The fact that they didn't throw in the towel, because even I thought they were out of it by the start of the fourth quarter, But mate, far out. Another 3 minutes, and it could have been anyone's, really.
Yeah, well, the last 3 minutes, Chop, 3 minutes to go, goal to Kyle Robertson. 2 minutes and 1 second, goal Pat Murphy. 55 seconds, goal Lachlan Bennett-Singster. Within the space of
Yeah.
2 minutes and 6 seconds, they scored 3 goals. And, you felt like I was watching it on the app, and I thought, gee, where's another 2 minutes? They were playing 27-minute quarters here. I reckon it could be could have been a different result. They were really finishing quite strongly, but just the
I was like a
time
different commentator.
Yeah,
I was like a totally different commentator in that last 5 minutes. It was because it was, I think we might be getting used to, I don't know how spoiled you've been getting down in Sydney in recent times, Ash, but I felt like I've been getting a bit spoiled. We've got a monitor there, we've got a desk, we've got some cover over the top. Mate, I was sitting on the concrete footing of the scoreboard and literally right on the boundary line side there, freezing cold, because that's the side that gets the shadows early on in the afternoon. And, it was not most luxurious broadcasting circumstances that we've had. But as we know, we've been a bit spread a bit thin with our broadcast team in recent times. And I'm blaming you both for this, by the way. Just so you know. But got through it, but that was so worth it. In the end, the game was actually a gem of a game. And I really enjoyed it, and I've got a lot of support for both of those sides. I really look forward to seeing their rise over the coming season. So, it was a great finish. Really enjoyed it.
No, it would have been a fantastic game. I watched the last 10 or 15 minutes of that. It just sounded terrific in terms of the way they both interacted.
Yeah.
The fight back from the entrance, Bateau Bay.
They didn't throw it in,
No, and that's the beauty of it, isn't it? And I don't think any side really just throws in the towel, which is a wonderful thing, because that's been the way of some games in the past a while ago, but it's not this season. I think every side truly believes on their day they're as good as anyone else, and it makes for a great competition. I mean, Cardiff winning, against Terrigal Avoca on Saturday. The fact they had to come from 20.
Have you talked about that game yet?
Mate, I'm happy to go back to it because
have you covered that game yet?
Yeah, we have. I mean, the fact that Terrigal were in front by 25.
You know what we're seeing? We're seeing consistent patterns. Sorry, mate. You go. Can you guys hear me? I'm still on, aren't I?
No, I've been muting myself, mate. Yeah, no, you're good to go, mate.
Oh, sorry, mate. Yeah, I should mute myself every now and then, but I don't. What we're seeing, I want to say this, because two things I want to say here at this point. Firstly, this is really shaping up as a wonderful follow-up to last year. I thought last year was big steps forward in men's Black Diamond Cup in particular. Now to have 8 teams that are all competitive, that are all playing, and now we're starting to see some really definitive playing styles between each of the clubs that are different and unique based upon their playing group, obviously, their geography and things like that. And all of them have something to really look forward to one way or another, whether they're succeeding now and they're at the top of the ladder, or whether they've just, they've only just entered the competition in recent years. There's something really exciting and really appealing about every club. And if you were a footballer moving into a particular region, you're kind of spoiled for choice with the clubs that you can go to. It's just really great. And as we head towards the other thing I wanted to say is, I want to change my mind about the finals. I don't know if is it still 4 teams, because I truly think now, I don't often do this, but I've had a lot of thought about it this week, and I think that there's a viable reason to have 5 teams in the finals this year. I really do. Number one, there were 7 teams thinking they had 4 spots to fight over, and I think that's, I don't know if it's right or not, but if I think 5 finals teams in 8 clubs in the fixture is a better ratio than 4 and 7. I think, if I do the maths. I'm not a mathematician, but not only that, it gives Nelson Bay a realistic chance of making the finals with match ratios, as well as not not discriminating against the other existing 7 that had 4 spaces to fight over in the first place. So it opens it up and gives everybody a chance. I reckon there's real argument to go to 5 teams in the finals this year. I'd like to open it up, see what people think. But I really do. I think it would be the best way to keep sides enthusiastic and motivated right through to the end of the season, and it will be a fair call too on the way that it worked out, because I just fear there's going to be some controversy come to the finals. If it's all based upon match ratio, but if you made it 5, I don't think anyone can complain.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of permutations there, I suppose, about the number of days allocated to the finals race and how many clubs are in the women's, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not necessarily easy one. I think philosophically, yep, I can see where you're coming from. We've got the ladder up on the board there now. If it was to finish something along these lines, and we're obviously expecting Cardiff to boost their match ratio as the year goes on, but you'd struggle to justify it now, given there is such a gulf between 4th and 5th. Like, fourth is at 71% match ratio and 5th is at 37. And you're saying, well, listen, why would you justify 5th coming into the finals if they've only got a 37% win ratio? I think it'll be hard to justify right here, right now. But give it a few more
Will
weeks.
they have that though by the end of the year?
I don't know. Well, that's the question. I just don't know, Corey.
Will they have that by the end of the year? That's the thing. I don't know. I only think philosophically, Shane, to be honest. So so that's why. And I was very dead against it 2 weeks ago, but I feel that there is justification now to at least consider it. And mainly because there's been overhaul in that season with the new club coming in and fleshing it out. But anyway, that's an argument for other people on another day, I guess. But I just felt like I wanted to say that. And what about Cardiff? Are they back, boys? Are we in agreement here, or?
Yeah, we've already eaten some humble pie a bit earlier, and admitted they might be back.
Yeah,
thanks, boys. Thank you, lads.
I'm happy to eat it.
I didn't want to rub it in.
Yeah, more than happy to eat it. I think I think from memory last week you said they're right in it again. So you're the one that believed, Corey, when perhaps Shane and I we're a little bit sceptical. But look, if you're beating Terrigal Avoca and you're taking Newcastle City to within a goal, then you're definitely back, aren't you?
Well,
I just felt something had to happen, Corey, there.
If you look at that ladder here now after round 9, knowing how much we've got to go, if there is only 4 teams in the final, are Cardiff even a mathematical chance? Like, can they even make it? Because they're a long way behind.
There's one extra round still to be played, isn't there?
True. Yeah, we got the makeup round.
Mate, there's a makeup round. Obviously you can't make allowances for a side that didn't start just because they didn't start well, whether they finished better or not. They might finish the last 6 rounds and smash everyone and show that they're premiership contenders, and then through match ratio don't make it. That's just, I guess, the way things work out. Whereas if there was only 7 teams in it and four finals positions, then they probably would have made it. So it's one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't situations. But I tell you what, I reckon I should get invited to this, right? Because I stayed with the Hawks. I backed myself in. Are you having a look at that, Cardiff? If there's any chance of any spare tickets to Hawks Fest, because I reckon that might be about what's going on over there at the moment. If they think, especially if the men's cup look like they're going to storm their way into finals towards the end of the year. Hawks Fest, doesn't that look like fun?
It does look like fun.
Wow, looks like a ripping event. I mean, look, their next couple of weeks, they're playing against the Entrance Batter Bay at home this weekend. And then next weekend, they've got Nelson Bay at Dick Burwell Oval. And then they have Warners Bay at Fagan Oval.
Retribution round.
Sorry? Yeah, so if they go...
that feels like it might be a retribution round.
I think that might be where it sits for them. If they've got to win all 3 of those games to get themselves back anywhere in contention for that top 4. If they lose one game, maybe it's not catastrophic. But if they get beat by Nelson Bay and Warners Bay in the next 2 weeks, assuming they're going to defeat the Entrance Batter Bay tomorrow, which is what I've tipped, then that might just be it, because there's only 6 rounds after that to salvage a season after you've lost...
Yeah.
7 games. What is it? 7 games. 7 games out of the first 11. Yeah, that's not a great.
Especially with the side direct. No, not at all. Especially when the side directly above you, and obviously every one of them above that, are continuing to win those games. So, I mean, Waterloo Bay are unlucky, I believe, to be sitting. Well, what are they? Effectively equal third, aren't they? But they're unlucky considering the football they're playing at the moment. So, they're equal third, aren't they? Is that right?
Yeah, correct. They are for match ratio, bang on line with Terrigal.
Yeah.
And the match ratio with the Nelson Bay Footy Club coming into Cup now has effectively edged them out of equal second position. So, and they're only, what are they, 2 kicks off Newcastle City or something anyway. So,
yeah, they're basically half a game. It's almost like it's half a game really. If they drew, say example, they drew the game, they'd be what out of 5 out of 8, which you're looking at about 60%. And half a game, yeah, you'd probably be sitting around the 70 odd mark, 72% mark. It'd almost be there. But
well, they've had an injection of players too at Cardiff that I think are really exciting for them. They were lacking goal kickers. They've got them now. Troy Curtis, Ryan Bonham, and obviously Sam Howard. They got a bag on the weekend, so they finally joined the ranks of 8 clubs that have all got bag raiders, which is exciting. So they've put themselves in a position to be able to do it. So we can't wait to see how it works out.
Oh, look, and all I know, fellas, is that 4 into 5 into 4 does not go. I mean, one of those teams is going to be very, very unlucky to miss a final this year if they don't change the top 4 to a top 5, which I won't say I know because I don't, but I have heard it spoken about that there's a possibility that a top 5's being considered. Possibility.
Well, all right. Well, I'm putting my vote in the favour camp right now. I'm going to.
Yeah,
look.
Looking at it now, you would say no, they don't deserve it. But the form that they've displayed in the last couple of weeks, fellas, if you put Cardiff in the 5th spot, they've got based on the 2 or 3 games they've had recently, even if they're in 5th, they're dangerous.
Yep.
Dangerous.
Can I say this?
Dangerous.
On current form,
can I say this?
Top 5 teams could win. You'd almost say right here,
for sure.
Any of those top 5 teams could do it. Yep.
And dare I say this? With what Cardiff are recovering from, the tragic news they had in the off-season, how they've formulated themselves, they've fought their way back to grand final status last year. And if anything, perhaps, I think that, there's an argument there for almost, what do you call it, compassionate grounds to make it allow the 7 teams that were contesting this league from the start to have a possibility of getting one of 4 finals positions when it looks very likely that the side that entered late and have, as a result, have sort of mixed it up a little bit, will get one of those 5 as well. So it seems fair to me. Dare I say it, it could be one of those fairy tale endings for a club like Cardiff if they get that opportunity. So, I'm not going to go sell the movie rights to that just yet, but it could be one of those. It could be one. I tipped them at the end of last year to be the big movers this year and possibly go well enough to win a grand final. I just felt like that's what they were doing. They've got a great nursery of footballers there, and they just seem to keep producing them, and they keep attracting them from outside. So, I just think, I'm not that I've got sizable weight or influence or anything like that, but my vote would go heavily in favour of a 5-team finals series this year.
Corey, I like football. I like finals. So more football, more finals. I'm voting for 5 teams because it gives us more games. So, hey, let's bloody do it.
There we go.
Yeah, my oath. I'm happy with the top 5 as well. As I think for all the reasons that Chop said, to be honest, we had 7 teams at the start of the year. Now we've got 8, and the match ratio it could be a factor. Saying that though, Nelson Bay only missed the first 4 games of the season. So realistically, they're playing 13 out of the 17 games in Cup. So, I think I think what will happen is it'll even itself out over the time period. I mean, if Nelson Bay continue to play like they are, and they only lose 1, 2, maybe 3 games throughout the year, 10 out of 13 is a pretty bloody good ratio. So they deserve their status.
Amazing! They deserve their spot. Yeah, 100%. I actually can't wait. I can't wait. I hope we get to cover them in Bar TV this year because I think, I have been I've been critical of the circumstances there, but at the same time, I definitely want to give them a fair go and get a chance to cover them and see if I get booed when I go to Dick Burwell Oval next
we
time
were nearly
too.
covering them on Saturday. I think it was to do with the other games before them. There's no game before them from what I can tell. I think there's no major game, so it would have just been a 2:00 game at Dick Burwell Oval. So we definitely will get Nelson Bar.
Right.
I know that Emily's very keen to get them on Bar TV, and I know they're keen to be on it too. So yeah, look forward to having them. Yeah, it'd be great, and it'd be wonderful to chat to a few of the boys too. They're a wonderful bunch of guys. Yeah, I know Billy Barton.
Yeah, they are.
Fella. Wade Blackburn. I had a very, very small chat to him when I was in AFL Sydney last year. He sounds like a ripping fella. Jaden Reimer's a really nice bloke.
Ash, one of my favourite things at Elliot Davey Medals was I think it was 2 years ago when Wade Blackburn and Scott Reed shared, I think it might have been the goal kicking trophy in reserve grade or the best player in reserve grade or something. I think they got equal votes for best player. I can't remember what that medal's called offhand. But when they got up and accepted it, it was one of the best, great sportsmanship moments where two champions got up and accepted award. Neither of those guys should have been playing reserve grade, by the way, so it was heavily was stacked in their favour, but they did, and they won the award. And mate, it was I don't know if anyone else got it, but I watched the way the two interacted, and they were very congratulatory of one another and of their respective clubs and each other's clubs. It was just a really good moment between Scott Reed and Wade Blackburn. So I remember that. I remember writing up about it, saying that was a heartwarming moment. But I am an emotional guy on trophy night, so.
Yeah. Well, speaking of trophies, goal kickers is up on the screen. It's been on the screen for about 5 minutes, but we're not going to run through it because we've been rabbiting on now for far too long. So we're going to.
Don't worry, mate. I'm going to just keep this running after you guys go off to bed tonight, and I'll talk all about it. I have heaps to say about that.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah, well, you're right. You're 100% there, Chop. Wade Blackburn, Scott Reed, 17 votes each to win the 2022 Ian Granlund medal. There you go.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Have a look at it online. It was a great moment.
I'm going to straighten you two boys up and say, hey, listen, let's focus on the week ahead. What's happening in the Women's Cup? Because let's have a look at round 10 action, because there is going to be plenty of good stuff happening out in the field. We could talk about the past forever, and Corey might even do so for the rest of the night. But
he's excited, mate. We love it. We love it.
Talk us through tomorrow.
Oh, can you believe I was late tonight? Can you believe I was late?
That's all right,
I'm waiting to talk about this all week. All week, but I missed half of it.
We've been very keen. Well, look, I'll get you on the first one.
Back now. Let's go.
Singleton versus Terrigal Avoca at Rose Point Park.
I've even got this in case I talk too long. See this?
Love it.
It's a timer, just in case I talk too long.
Beautiful. Singleton v Terrigal Avoca at Rose Point Park. Singleton will be looking. I reckon they'll be looking at this match, the Roosterettes, given the Panthers haven't won since May 17, which is round 5. The Terrigal side will have a lot to prove, and they'll want to keep in touch with the top 4. And if they lose this game, fellas, the top 4 is going to start to look a little bit more difficult. Not sure about you guys. What do you think about this game in terms of a tip and who's going to win it?
Well, I think last time these two teams played down at Hilton Moor, I was pretty bullish about the chances of the Roosterettes, and I think I said, it should be pretty close. I think they lost 82-1 or 82-0 or something like that. So I don't want to give them the kiss of death, but at home, I think Terrigal Avoca not travelling as well. They obviously had short on numbers and the loss to Warners Bay last week. So I'm going to say it. I'm going to tip the Roosterettes. Done. There we go. Corey.
Yeah, well, that's a fair call. Well, look, I always say it's a 3-goal advantage one way or the other between Terrigal and Singleton, depending on who's doing the driving in that morning. And Singleton, I watched the game on the weekend between Singleton and the Entrance Battery Bay. They lack a bit of firepower there in their women's side, but just keeping a consistent side on the paddock has been difficult for them this year. They've always got a lot of great juniors to come through, but when they've got to rely too much on them to play senior footy sometimes, and this is one of those years. But they're at home, and that means more likely that some of those good juniors will be available. Faith Rademacher was on fire last week. Created a lot, but probably just had to do too much in the ruck in the end. It's a long way to travel to the Central Coast from Singleton. And Terrigal are questionable at the moment, aren't they? So at the
Yeah.
end of the day, this is one of those moments where a side that's not likely going to play finals can have an influence on the final sides that make the finals in the end. So Terrigal, the new coach Luke LePage, there it comes in highly accredited. I reckon they'd be a little bit worried about where they're at the moment, because to not make the finals is a significant backward step at the Panthers, I have to say, especially with who might replace them in it. I still think they'll probably they might hang on if they get their players together, but I think I'm gonna tip the Roosters as well. They'll be desperate for this one. They really will. And I don't know, there's just not enough going on to excite me at the Terry Gullivoca Panthers camp in the women's at the moment. They got to shine.
Yeah, well, it's going to be an interesting one. They're playing at 12 p.m. Just reading there that their men's side have had a forfeit against them to Cardiff, which is unfortunate to them. They were going for a few in a row, but this is the official memorial round at Singleton this week. So they've had a couple of big games. They had the Musselbrook versus Singleton game a few weeks ago, the Nathan Duncan round. Nathan was a wonderful young man, and his life was taken tragically short. And last weekend in the men's game, they had the Maitland team, who it's the Brian Childs round. And Brian was a brilliant young kid who would have been a terrific footballer, tragically killed in a car accident going to work on to the mines. So, yeah, I've had a fair bit of tragedy up here in Singleton, in Roosterville, and it's an opportunity to reflect for the club, and a real opportunity for the club to get back to their home base. In saying that, been a bit of celebration for them in the last few weeks. Molly Thomas and Alex Nayland, two girls that Tig coached in the under 13s, under 15s. They were selected for the New South Wales for the Allies team in the Australian Youth Girls Championships under 18s. So imagine having two girls from 2.5 hours from Sydney represent the Allies. It's just magnificent. Molly Thomas and
it is, mate.
Alex Nayland. It's fantastic, and they definitely miss Molly, and I'm sure if Alex was playing for them, she was switching to Cardiff before she went to before she got injured. So technically she's still a Singleton player, but she was switching to Cardiff before then, as the inside story goes back there. But we still claim her at Singleton as one of the Roosters' own.
Of course.
And
of course.
To be honest, if they had those two players in the team, their fortunes in the top half of the table would be a lot better. In saying Terrigal are rattled. They have a real shortness of players for some unknown reason. I think they only played 15 in their plate game on the weekend in their plate game. So something in terms of the women's numbers isn't working as well as it should at the Panthers. Hopefully that resurrects itself. But I'm actually going to go with Shane, and I've tipped Singleton by a very small margin. But if they work together tomorrow and they use the spirit of their sisters and their brothers who have worked really hard over the last few years, I really think they can get over the line tomorrow.
And Ash, do you know how far the club rooms are off being finished? Do they?
I haven't driven past it. I'm barely in town, mate. Work takes me 15 minutes from home, and you'd think I'd get home early, but no, that doesn't. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen for me.
I've got to say, the emotion attached to this game, and particularly the last few rounds, Singleton really has done it tough in terms of personnel in recent years, and there's no doubt if there's a club that deserves to cut a break at some point, it's the Singleton Roosters. The women's have sustained a position in the cup, in the top tier competition. They're doing it tough this year, there's no doubt, but they're just resilient, and Singleton has always been a resilient football club. If if Motion has anything to go by, you can expect them to have, if nothing else, a wonderful performance and do their club proud. That's for sure. But emotion's a massive thing. It's a massive driver when it comes down to it, and especially when because emotion creates genuine belief that you can do it, not just a falsified idea that we might win today. It just we're going to do it for whatever the cause may be. So that's going to run really strong with the Singleton Roosterettes this weekend, I would imagine, at home. So I just want to clarify. I tip Singleton as well. I think they might do it by a couple of goals.
All right. Well, we might move to Cardiff in the entrance, Bateau Bay. Look.
Good luck to Molly and Alex too. That's wonderful.
Yeah. I think Alex she got 17 disposals in the first game against Vic Country, a game they lost by 10 goals, mind you. And I think Molly got 10 or 11 touches, played midfield for about 3/4 of the game. She found it a little bit tougher than Alex, but Alex plays off half back. She's a really, really strong player.
Draft potential.
Yeah, look, I mean, Molly is as fit as a mallee bull, runs all day, has a booming left foot, so and she can tackle too. I've witnessed that many times. She's a very good all-round player, player. But Cardiff in the entrance, Bateau Bay, they've got a lot of class, Cardiff, and their recent form's been incredible. They've thrashed both other premiership contenders in City and Killarney Vale. Molina Ayres, for mine, makes a huge difference to them, and they've got so many other players with Smith and Newton.
There's Rock.
Bonnie Swan and so many others. The entrance, Bateau Bay, are a young, fit side who won't give up. But for mine, fellas, I find it really difficult. And I chat to Scott Gray a bit. He's a ripping fella. I find it difficult to see anything other than a Cardiff win at Pasterfield on Saturday. I've got them by about 5 to 6 goals conservatively.
I think you're being very conservative. Yeah, they are in fantastic form. They got stacked players all across the field, front lines, back lines. And unfortunately, I don't think Entrance Bateau Bay have got the depth. You know, they've got some great young talent, but I don't think they've got the depth to match with Cardiff. It's going to be an easy win to Cardiff, especially at home.
The Entrance Bateau Bay are in good form at the moment, and they've got plenty to play for too, the girls there, because they're red hot looking at that 4th spot and hanging on to it all the way and playing in a final series this year. So they'll give it a red hot crack. They'll really come out, because talking to Rachel Lyons on the weekend, I think she's the captain of the Women's Cup side there and a real fierce competitor too. But they really want that spot. They're going to play hard. They're training well. Scott Gray's doing a great job there, taking over from Harley from last year. And they won't beat Cardiff this weekend. I don't think anyone will beat Cardiff for the rest of the year, to be fair. I think Cardiff are just on point. They're scintillating at the moment. And, the Entrance Bateau Bay will put in a gallant effort, but Cardiff will comfortably win this at home tomorrow.
Yep. What about the match around
Hawkfest? Hawkfest.
What about the game we're covering on Bar TV? As I love hearing you boys say, the kings of live stream at number 1 Sports Ground at 1 p.m. tomorrow.
Newcastle something there, Ash.
Oh, I love it. I love the hashtag. Newcastle City versus Warners Bay. Look, on paper, you see Newcastle City doing this by a big way. They came off a massive loss to Cardiff 2 weeks ago. So the bye last week did them some good. Brett Godfrey, the coach, and the girls, I reckon, rest, reset, renew would have been a big focus for them on the training track. Warners Bay going into the game on a 2-game winning streak. And the last time that happened was about round 7 or 8, round 10 or 11 last year. And then before that, it was about 3 years ago, 4 years before that. So Warners Bay, it's been a long time between winning 2 in a row. I can't tell you the last time they won 3 in a row. I did struggle to find that, but it would have been earlier in their campaign when they were a lot more, I guess, at the top echelon of the cup sides. But you know what? Their 3 wins this season's been a massive step forward, and I say that in the context of the fact that in 17 games last year they won 4 matches. So in the first 7 or 8 games this year, they've won 3. It's awesome for them. For mine, it'll be out of reach, and I think Newcastle will be looking to prove a point at home. And yeah, I hope Amy Pittman's girls come out and prove me wrong, but I think Newcastle City very, very comfortably tomorrow.
Yeah, well, Newcastle City had the bye last week after that loss to Cardiff, but let's not forget they played the Tuesday night. So they lost to Cardiff. They played 3 days later. 3 days later, they belted Terrigal Avoca 88-0. So they're a class side who came back after a 3-day break and really put the foot on the throat of the Panthers. We saw last week Warners Bay get over the top of the Panthers, but it wasn't by 88 points and it wasn't 88-0. So I think on paper, Newcastle City are going to be the hot favourites going into that. But we've seen the growth of Amy Pittman's team, and it's been really fantastic to watch. They're going to be a better side than they were last time they played Newcastle City. once again, you just got to aim for those small wins and hope that margin is lower than it was last time you played them, and keep on improving, because we're definitely seeing improvement there from Warners Bay. They're not going to get within Kui of City tomorrow, but they'll put up a good fight, and they'll hopefully have a narrower margin they did last time they played them.
Yeah, well, it was 79 points to 3 points, I think, in round one when they played. So, and that was, I think, an improvement by 6 points or 3 points or something from the margin that they lost by the year before. So looking at it from that, that's a marginal improvement. But since round one to now, the Bulldogs girls have made massive steps, and they are echoing much of what we've seen in the men's side in recent years, where that club is actually a genuine measurement for how a club can progress forward and how they should be able to measure their progress forward. I think they're going to slash that deficit tomorrow. I don't think it's going to be anywhere near 76. I reckon it might be. Look, anything under 10 goals, I think will be huge in terms of being able to measure, especially what Newcastle City are coming off. But Amy Pittman, I'm going to those pit bikes, those little trail bikes, they're called thumpsters, right? Because they just around there and they're great fun. So I'm calling Amy Pittman the thumpster from now on, because that's what she seems to be doing over there. She's revolutionising women's football at Warners Bay, and she's turning people who've never played football before. Yeah. She's thumping them into good footballers, and they are coming along in leaps and bounds. And again, I'm going to probably cop some criticism. I'm not the biggest fan of Newcastle City Women's Cup style of footy at the moment. I'm a fan of what they've done for a long time, but now I think they're going to be tested more and more as other sides become more competitive with them and their style. So I think the test for now Newcastle City is to find new ways to evolve and adapt their style of football to stay a market leader for good, because they've been surpassed by Cardiff now. They were beaten. They weren't in the grand final last year. Killarney Vale have now won a premiership. So now we'll see these sides like, the entrance Batter Bay and now Warners Bay tomorrow. We'll see how much closer they can get to really see, A, how much Newcastle need to adapt, and B, how much improvement these emerging clubs have made. So go Thumpster. Good luck tomorrow with the girls. I think they will slash that deficit by a large margin, but Newcastle City will win in the end.
Well, she definitely prefers the term ferocious rodent, Pito. She loved it last time you called her the ferocious rodent.
Hungry mongoose.
The hungry mongoose.
The hungry mongoose was Jasmine Wellings.
Ferocious rodent. But Amy was. I was talking to Amy earlier today, and she said they had their first under-17 play in the cup side last week. And Corey might remember the name Blake Bronkhurst. Do you remember Blake Bronkhurst?
Yes, I do.
Well, his daughter lined up as an under-17 player on Saturday, Marley Bronkhurst, and kicked their first goal. Yeah. She's playing again this weekend, along with a debut for another under-17 player, Olivia Sullivan, who's the sister of Isabella Sullivan, who plays for Newcastle City. So we'll have siblings against each other on Saturday as well. So, and according to Amy, she said the team's training and developing well, and they're still focusing on gradual improvement and the little wins. So yeah, it's good to be there. And like you said, mate, she's doing wonders with that team, and the results are showing. So good luck to them on Saturday.
You know what's great about it? As to, like, you're talking about the Sullivan sisters there, the older sister must obviously with Newcastle to have maybe better opportunities, or is that where her junior club was? I don't know. I'm speculating. But with clubs like Warners Bay improving, concentrating on the little wins and working towards the bigger ones, that's so good, because you are now fostering a place where young kids who are talented want to stay at and want to keep building at. And maybe that's the situation between the Sullivan sisters there. One stayed at the junior club and one's gone for other opportunities because they weren't there for her, in recent years. But now they are. So good stuff, Warners Bay. I love it. That's what we want. We want to see people staying at their clubs.
Excellent, mate. We'll go to the cup now. Shane, what do you reckon? The men's cup, Maitland and Killarney Vale. Maitland and Killarney Vale, they were buoyed by the win last week, Maitland. They're first in over 365 days They've got the cattle, and we know that. They got the cattle on the park. They just need the confidence. Kalani Vale, they've struggled with injuries, personal availabilities, and anything that could go wrong this year's gone wrong for them so far. They'll be looking to get on top of Maitland early and take the 4 points back to Adelaide Street. Boys, I've got Maitland in an upset by 9 points at home.
I don't even know it's an upset.
I don't even know if it's an upset, but I'm tipping
probably
it.
Start favourites on form. I don't know. It's,
on four. Yeah, well, the way Kalani Vale got beat last week, I don't know. But for mine, I think, look, if Kalani Vale go in favourites for mine, on paper they're a better team, but I think Maitland at home, I think they'll enjoy kicking goals to the Alexandria Street end, where they've now got big nets to stop the footy going onto the road.
Not wasting time with the ball on the road anymore.
For mine, Maitland by a couple of goals.
That's great. Is that right? They've got big nets there. Have they got nets there now?
Yeah, the nets are up now. Yep. So first part of the redevelopment, obviously, there's some exciting stuff happening out at Max McMahon, and I can't wait for us to get back out there post the development and see it all happening. It does sound exciting. Listen, Ash, I think I'm with you on that. I could see the Maitland Saints not running away with this. I don't think it's going to be a big margin, but with Ryman Hoffman back, I think he obviously boosts their goal kicking. He's a class talent, and unfortunately for Shaq and his boys, they're not traveling that great. And I think Maitland could win by a couple of goals. Corey.
Well, mate, they had 8 goal kickers for 10 goals last week, Maitland. That's huge, and that's without Rylan Hoffman. So they won't have Billy Ellis this week, I don't think. But the fact that they are now maximising the ball use, because we've at times been picky about their midfield and how they overuse the ball a little bit, sometimes overthink their movement into the forward 50. But on the weekend, and watching them up close, they got it together. They're maintaining possession of the ball. And it was against the entrance Batter Bay, who are at their level in terms of where their defence is and stuff like that. So they're not a top 4 side. But Kalani Vale aren't either at the moment. And the way they move the ball and the way they maintain possession, and that 3rd and 4th and 5th kick, they still hit their target with it and then pull the trigger to find a forward that was capable and finish off as well. And they could have kicked more. They missed quite a few goals that were very gettable, I thought, at the end of the day. So they looked electric. They looked like they're finally gelling together under their new coach. The new coach, Hoffman's, doing a great job there. I watched him, very, very passionate guy on the sidelines. That's Roland's dad. Good bloke too. And it looks like they're getting it together, and they're starting to really, really gel. Then Charlie Walker and Xavier, Xavier, I can't remember his last name. Anyway, I just call him by their first name. And Zach Stewart was the bar raiser last week. They're really exciting midfield. Inglis was on fire down the back line. They got DJ Stewart back in their side. They've got good. We saw some good stuff from Dominic Drummore. Remember, I was a bit critical. I thought he looks like he can play. Why isn't he putting it in? But he was really good in the ruck last week. So they're going to upset some people, and I think they might upset the Bombers this weekend. I feel for Shaq. They're heading down that same direction of what they did last year, and they just shouldn't. They got great players. They're good guys. They're a good bunch of boys down there. I don't know what it is that's not working. I think maybe the in and out nature of some of the big guns that they rely on can be unsettling, and Shaq's not sure who he's got from one week to the next, but they've got a good squad that should be performing better than when they are. I spoke to Papa Flacky a couple of days ago at the Mingara Recreation Club. I don't know how I got there. I was completely lost, but I was there anyway. And great club, by the way. Go check it out. Wonderful place to be. Life's great at Mingara, apparently, they say. But anyway, I saw Flacky's dad there, and Flacky's doing well. He's in an NFL kicking program down in working with Sav Rocker, I believe, and showing some really good prospects down there. But they miss him hugely. We know he's a gun. They've got great players there. I think if they've got to just settle a little bit. So I'm going to put the call out to the KV boys to really dig deep. Find it, boys. Find it, because it's not too late, and you guys are capable. But you're coming up against an accomplished side in Maitland Saints, and I think they're going to upset some top 4 sides potentially this year, Maitland, and they will be absolutely thirsting for 2 on the trot tomorrow. And that, keep your eye on that midfield. Their midfield are just their guns.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's all three of us picked Maitland, have they? Or have we?
Riley
Yep,
Newstead
yep,
too.
yep.
Yeah,
Riley
absolutely.
Newstead.
Yeah, he's a good top
Riley
player.
Newstead last week, he's just emerged into a great captain as well. Just does good things at good times in the game. So they made a lot less mistakes too. So yeah, I think Maitland will do this one.
Ripping human. So it's Maitland from all of us. So challenge is on, Bombers. Let's see what you've got on Saturday. Next game, Terrigal Avoca versus Nelson Bay. Now, if we weren't at the fact we're not at this game doesn't mean it's not one of the matches of the round. This would almost be match of the round. 2 versus 3 on the table. And look, when the Marlins came up to the Cup after round 4, you would have chalked this one down to the Panthers with no hesitation whatsoever. But given how Nelson Bay have played in their first 4 games, you might give them a sniff. I mean, they've got players like Jaden Reimer, Billy Barton, Wade Blackburn. They'll be travelling up the M1 to cause the upset of the year on Saturday. The Panthers haven't lost 2 in a row since the 3rd of August last year, where they were beaten by City after losing to Cardiff by 2 points at home. Usually when Terrigal lead games by 25 points at quarter time, you expect them to run up a big score. But I reckon the loss last week's really stung Chris Bishop and the boys. For mine, expect a massive response tomorrow, and Nelson Bay might be the unlucky victims. Terrigal for mine by 5 goals.
Oof.
You want to go, Shane?
Yeah, listen, they get Harrison Pitt back, which I think aids them. I think they'll be pretty hungry, as you say, after the loss. We haven't seen Nelson Bay in the flesh yet, which obviously we will, and I'm sure in the next few weeks we'll get the chance to see them in the flesh. But on paper, they've had some big wins themselves, and we saw Warners Bay take it to the Panthers down at Hilton Moor only a few weeks ago, and we saw Nelson Bay take it to Warners Bay. So on that sort of form line, you suggest that Nelson Bay have the chance. Will they beat the Panthers at home? I don't think they will, but I'm thinking it's only going to be a matter of single-digit points. I think there'd be another close result with the Panthers just getting over the line.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. Good points on both accounts there, I think. I think tomorrow's going to be the first real indicator of exactly where Nelson Bay are since they've joined the competition. It's all been a bit of shock process or adjustment process for most of the other clubs. With Nelson Bay coming in at nothing to lose, they've just thrown everything in it. They're coming off confidence, winning wins by 200 points when they were in play. And then they've come up against Kalani Vale, who aren't anywhere near where they should be. Warners Bay, who I still believe are building the mindset to be champions. And I think that could have affected them and the close finish last week. When all of a sudden this game on at half time against Nelson Bay, and when a young side is teaching themselves to be champions, sometimes they can get a little rattled by that. So I think that could have affected the close margin last week. And Cardiff, we know, just were nowhere near what they are. They were, finding who they are. Voyage of self-discovery, I guess, a few weeks ago. And of course, the entrance Baddo Bay, who probably didn't know what to expect when they come up against them. So I don't think any of those results really have been a sound indicator of exactly where Nelson Bay are at. But tomorrow they play Terrigal Avoca Panthers, arguably the strongest club, at least one of the 2 strongest clubs in the past decade or more. Not in their best form, not with their strongest 22 that they've had in the last 12 years, but still formidable football side that got beaten by a rejuvenated Cardiff that they possibly weren't ready for last week. Worries me about Terrigal. They're starting to show consistent signs of not finishing strongly, of coming out of the box very well, being in control by half time, then getting run down. Right, so this is a concern for Bishy, and Pity will bolster that he hasn't. He's 4th on the goal kicking list or something like that, but he didn't play last week. I think coming off holidays. I don't think Terrigal are where they're at, but beware the wounded panther at the end of the day. And I think this really need to see Nelson Bay to make an accurate assessment. But I think this will be the telling stroke of exactly where they are in the competition. And I don't know if I'm right, but I don't think they're second on the ladder in this competition in reality. I think they're closer to fifth or fourth, and I think Terrigal will prove that tomorrow. So I think the Terrigal Avoca Panthers, even not at their best, that was a long way of me saying Terrigal will win this by 30 points.
Nah, couldn't agree with you more, mate. I think the testing material's yet to come for Nelson Bay, although they had a good test last week. Cardiff versus the entrance Baddo Bay at Pasterfield. Well, we've seen both sides of Cardiff in the last few weeks, the old Jekyll and Hyde. They were beaten by Killarney Vale in round 5, and they were 2-3 at that stage, and I reckon we were starting to doubt them. They were beaten at home by Nelson Bay in round 7, and the alarm bells started to ring for them. We knew we knew they might have been a bridge too far against Newcastle City, but given the form, the nature of the display, and the way you two blokes talked on the podcast the week before, there started to be a bit of sign, and I reckon the supporters might have had some hope. And then came the win against Terrigal. Not only did they win, but they came from 4 and a bit goals down at quarter time to do it. The entrance Baddo Bay, well, they have one win on the board. We saw them on Bar TV. We thought, big improvers this year. Lachlan Bennett's inkster shining, but since then, not even the Byro's been able to write a score large enough for them to win. I think it's going to be a really difficult.
He's apparently frowned upon the Byro too. I heard down at the ground.
He
wasn't a big fan of the Byro. He goes, I wonder what he's going to come up with this week.
Love it. So, I think this weekend's going to be pretty difficult for the entrance Baddo Bay. The Hawks have found their wings, and they're going to do this pretty comfortably. I've got them by 50.
Big margin. Well, Corey, I want you to get out your red bathers and your refoil, because I'm putting you on David Hasselhoff Baywatch. Cardiff over the next 3 weeks, the entrance Baddo Bay, Nelson Bay, Warners Bay. So Cardiff have got the 3 bays in a row, and I think this is going to be the telling point for their season. So they're on Baywatch, and I think tomorrow is going to be the first win of those 3. And I'm not sure whether they're going to go, how they're going to go in the next 2. That is going to be interesting, but I think they'll get the win over the entrance Baddo Bay. For everything Ash has just said there, I think they're starting to find some form. They can now build that momentum, and I think a big win tomorrow would help raise the spirits in that camp. That they've had the hard-fought wins, they've had to come back from behind to beat Terrigal Avoca. I think you put in there a nice big margin win, and that team starts to look pretty good, and momentum can do a lot of things. And I think, chalk it down for match 1 at Baywatch, and I think Cardiff will get the win tomorrow.
That's great. There's so many puns in that triple bay thing, isn't there? Like bay, bay, bay. I keep thinking of that. I think it's that NSYNC song. You may hate me, but bay, bay, bay. So that's great. Yeah, baying all over the place. Bombay. My head keeps thinking of puns. I've got to talk footy. Cardiff. As you know, I remained on the cart. The cart was rickety. You guys wanted to push it over the cliff altogether. I hung in there. I felt like they were going to come good. They just needed mate. There's trouble with, like, as good as he's doing in the forward line, but Sam Howard, one of the best defenders. Stacking up as a key forward, if not presenting as their number 1 forward. There was things missing there at Cardiff. Then all of a sudden, some names pop up that were, new to us, and Troy Curtis being one of them, nearly got the bag when we covered the game. It didn't. And then Ryan, the Christmas bonbon went off on the weekend by getting the bag for Cardiff. So all of a sudden now, bang, they've got reliable firepower in the forward line, and with Sam Howard as well, who keeps kicking goals and is in the top 10 goal kickers, which is just a wonderful effort. And that frees the pressure off him a little bit now that they've got other goal kickers. And that is possibly what has allowed them to just let the reins go a little bit and start playing. They've had a big turnover of personnel, but now they're starting to settle. So I think we're going to see some exciting stuff from Cardiff, where there was a disappointment in them because we hoped that they were going to follow up their grand final appearance with an even better season this year, and then it wasn't looking like it. I think the faith that I've kept in them, and don't get me wrong, it's not favouring one particular club. I just call it the way that I see it. You wanted to see them continue to do well. So I reckon they're back. I reckon they got their season back online. on track, and they're going to have a really big message-sending win tomorrow. That's not to take anything away from the entrance Barrow Bay, because those boys, what they have to look forward to is what's coming out of that club in the next 3 to 4 years, because Max Atiwi and Sam Mostyn and Harry Levi and Liam Pass and the others that I've missed, these 17-year-old kids that are propping up and filling in the spots out there, plus a very under Kyle Robinson, he's doing a great job with their 17s again this year. They've got so many great kids that coming through that are going to be just guns for that club, and they love that club, and it's a really good vibe down there. So they don't need to worry about whether they get beaten by 2 Manly points this year, especially by Cardiff this weekend, because Cardiff are resurrecting a season, because we just want to see those young kids get support from their big players. Scott Reed's having a great season. I don't know if they got Bennett Singster. Dane Robinson's an amazing defender. They've got players there that are all coming together at the right time, and the next couple of years is going to be where we'll see exciting stuff from the entrance Barrow Bay. It won't be tomorrow. They'll get a little bit of a lesson tomorrow, I think, from Cardiff, and I think it'll be somewhere around the 40-point margin myself. But take nothing away. The entrance Barrow Bay are playing where they should be playing at the moment, given where they're at in the competition and the personnel that they have. So good luck to Mitch Eade and his boys tomorrow. I think Cardiff will beat them, but that'll be not a question mark on what they're doing at the entrance Barrow Bay. They're doing great things.
So, fellas, leads us to the last game, the Bar TV match of the round. Newcastle City and Warners Bay, number 1 sports ground, 3 p.m. If you're not if you don't get to the ground tomorrow to watch the game, the next best thing is to get on Bar TV Sports, get on the live stream, and listen to Corey and myself and Shane, and value that wonderful camera work from Shane, and you can probably put up with Corey and I chatting for a bit.
Ash, I have got so many puns ready for tomorrow. Like, this is one of the few games I've actually prepared material for. So a lot of it is one-liner punchlines, of course, but no, it's going to be great. I'm salivating over this one.
Yeah, it's going to be a fantastic game. If you're at the ground, even if you're at the ground tomorrow, switch it on the live stream and get us on there, and you'll have a bit of fun tomorrow. Look, for mine, fellas, it's a fantastic match. First versus fourth. Warners Bay probably don't deserve to be fourth the way they've played this year. They've been relatively consistent. Obviously, Newcastle City undefeated. They've been, I guess, and they'll probably tell you they haven't been at their best at games, but they've found ways to win. Nathan Harkness's men, they're looking to shelve some of their over-enthusiastic errors, which they've probably cost them a couple of times in games against the better teams. They only lost to Newcastle City by 10 points in round 1 and to Terrigal by 16 in round 5, which you two boys covered, which shows at their best they can match it. And if they cut out those errors, they can go a long way to getting closer again and technically knocking them off. The close one last week against Nelson Bay was a sting in the tail for them, pardon the pun, for the Marlins, but they found a way to win, and good sides find ways to win when they're not playing their best. Newcastle, on the other hand, they've made light work of sides this year, but they've also been tested by Terrigal, Cardiff a couple of weeks ago, and the Dogs. They've got a side full of talent, but the Dogs have a grit and a never-say-die attitude. And I reckon this one is going to be one hell of a game tomorrow at the home of AFL football in Newcastle. For mine, though, fellas, Newcastle City by 15 points. I've heard that Church won't be playing tomorrow.
Yeah,
that's
an out comment, Ash.
Yeah, an out from Nathan Harkness during the week. But
where's the sheriff?
He's just saying cut the errors out, and we're going to be a much better side.
And where's the sheriff as well? He's 2 weeks. 2 weeks he hasn't played. Anyone know? Or for Newcastle City?
No, might be on duty in the county.
rounding.
He's got to get a couple of cow hustlers.
That's it, rounding up cow hustlers and bank robbers.
Couple of six-shooters.
Reach for the sky.
I am super excited to be back at number 1 tomorrow. Obviously, it is a great venue, and these two sides, they've had some great battles over the last 18 to 24 months, and I think we're going to see another one of those tomorrow. it's tantalising. In fact, I think you talk about which game do we cover. We probably could have gone out to Max McMahon and had a fantastic game out there. I think there's something to look for in that game. I think the Marlins versus the Panthers could have been a match of the round as well. And heck, you probably could have gone and watched Batto Bay and Cardiff, because there's on the ladder wise they're relatively close as well. So any of the games could have been match of the round, but this one is a right deserved match of the round participant, because I think these two sides are going to have an absolute belting game. I just think I'm a huge Church Lauritsen fan. I think he's one of the best halfbacks in the league for just cutting off that loose ball and then providing that rebound out of defense. And I think they're going to miss him tomorrow. And for that reason only, I'm going to tip.
Can kick a lazy bag at the other end too.
He can, of course, he can. They've got a couple of Zacks in the team. They need their third Zack for my mind. So I'd love to see him back in there. And I think for that reason only, I'm going to tip City. They're a class side, and we've talked. Plenty of times about the players that we're not familiar with, because they come in and, your Ethan Mars and your Luptons and your Tuddies and whatever else that just bring class and composure. And they're full of it across the ground, Newcastle City. They really, really are. So they're a well-drilled side, and I think they're going to get over the line by a couple of goals.
Brilliant. There was a couple of notable games in the plate competition tomorrow too. The game that's after the City versus Warners Bay games, the third versus fourth between Wyong and Newcastle City, which should be a great game at 5 p.m. under the lights with the yellow footy. And in the plate women's, Nelson Bay and Maitland, top two sides playing tomorrow for the first time this season. So be a great game. And Maitland, fellas, we know what happened to them last year in the Women's Cup. They struggled big time last year. Undefeated in plate this year, picked up a couple of girls, have Scott Ellis that's training them really well. And, showing them, he said for the first time in their life, some of these girls are actually learning how to play football. And, it's wonderful for that club to get the plate girls up and running. And, good luck to both sides. Nelson Bay, they've got a bunch of under 17, under 19 players that are absolute.
I want to cover my Newcastle game. Let me talk about Newcastle.
I think what Ash was going to do there, Corey, he was just going to say, Shane and Ash are off. We'll see you later. We're going to let Corey speak.
We've got to get going, mate.
I thought you were about to sign off. I went, hold on, I want to say
No, I won't sign off for you. But Bar TV Sports, the Kings are live stream, 3 p.m. tomorrow, 1 o'clock for the Women's Cup, 3 p.m. for the men's. I can't wait to be back with you, fellas. We'll see you guys tomorrow. But stay with Corey, because he's got a lot to say, I can tell you that, mate.
I've got about another 3 minutes, Corey, so talk to me about Warners Bay and Newcastle.
You guys are the best. Did you guys...
I'll hang out. As I said, I only got a couple of minutes.
That's brilliant, Ash. I love it. That was great. But on your note, mate, that's what the good thing about sides getting the opportunity to go down a grade should be able to do. Go back 1, maybe 2 seasons, build up, recruit players, get back up there, because we need a 8th side in the Women's Cup. So
right, you got 2.5 minutes. Bulldogs and City.
Is that all I got? Is that all I got?
Yes, we got to go.
All right,
go, Chop. Where's your timer?
Okay, check me out on my my private channel. I'll cover this. Now, massive game tomorrow in the grand scheme of it. Massive game. This is where Warners Bay can take either the next step and show everyone they are genuine premiership threats and contenders, which I think they are, because this should be the one where they elevate themselves somewhere else, with or without Lauritsen, because, he's one of my favourites as well, has been for a long time, and it can be a game winner if he's swung up forward. That's the good thing about Warners Bay. They've got those range of players that they can throw upwards. Tomorrow is, I love when this happens, when there's a shootout between the top 2 goal kickers for the year, and currently on 23 goals apiece, the Big Tractor and Munzilla are both sitting there. 23 goals after 9 games of footy. 8 games. Is it 8 games of footy? 9. Yeah, 8 games of footy. I think last year's total of 34 or 36 is going to be blown out of the water. I think we're going to have someone push towards the 50 mark for goals this year to win the Goolagong. And, mate, Munzilla, 3 bags. I call him Baba Black Sheep because he's got 3 bags full so far this season. So he is on fire. Jordan Deere, the Big Tractor, he became a double bagger on the weekend, and we've got 4 double baggers in the goal kicking tally so far. Bags are just coming in left, right, and centre on the weekends at the moment. It's crazy. And we're going to see them shoot out tomorrow. Both of these teams have got the two best firepowers in the competition, the best forward line. In saying that, no Sheriff Woody, and I'd love to know what's going on there and where he is. The difference, I think, tomorrow is going to be Newcastle City have a lot of players that are either just this year or just last year. And I don't think there's as many at Warners Bay. I think Warners Bay have sort of grown up a bit more together from what I can get, especially building from this position to this position. Newcastle have been at this position because they're a wonderful club, but they have a rotation of personnel from one year to the next, and they just managed to keep pulling in these great, good, top quality players. So the challenge is going to be on them tomorrow to be able to play like a side that have all kind of grown up together. Noel McDonald's going to have a big influence tomorrow because he's their number one in that defensive line there. They also don't. Michael Hendry's been out for a little bit too, hasn't he?
He has, yep.
I think so. Hopefully, see him back. I think Nate Harkness will get his boys up for this one. I think Newcastle possibly a bit unsteady at the moment. No, Woody, that's 3 goals down that they'll have, and they come up against the second best forward line, I reckon, in the competition tomorrow with Warners Bay. And I think they will just want it so bad, they will settle. They probably got a bit nervous against Nelson Bay last week because they didn't know where they were at. I think they'll settle down a little bit and show us exactly what they're all about, and they could create an upset. So I'm backing Warners Bay for tomorrow. Not that it'll change the way of things for Newcastle City too much, but I think Warners Bay in a nail biter. And, mate, get those goal celebrations happening tomorrow, boys, because that could be the difference between who wins and loses. I want to see the Munzilla. I want to see the Harvester. I want to see the Harley Crawfordson.
Yep.
Get that out for sure. Let's get them all out.
That's it. I want
Max Quinlan.
Quinlan.
Get a few of these down the back.
Well, yep.
Yeah, love it.
I want to see what Riley Hawes has got up his sleeve. I want to see the big dig do an excavator or something like that. Let's turn this into an absolute spectacle tomorrow, because I think this is the genuine top 2 teams playing tomorrow.
Yep.
Yeah, I really do.
Good stuff. Well, we'll get to see it tomorrow. It's only one short sleep away. We're going to be live, bringing it to you from the Kings of Live Sport Bar TV. We'll be starting off at 1 p.m. for the women's game, Newcastle City versus Warners Bay, and the women's there, followed up by the men's, that big game at 3 p.m. Gentlemen, I can't wait to get the 3. What would you call us? The 3 Mike Skateers back together,
Corey? Yeah, love that.
Yeah. You know what our names are? If you're familiar with the 3 Musketeers, we've got Hoporthos here, we've got Aramash over there, and Darwanian.
Oh, there we go. Love it. Thanks everyone for sticking with us. You've had 90 plus minutes of absolute hot air garbage, but thanks for sticking around. Corey wants to say one last thing, and then it's time for us to wrap this up.
Thanks, guys. I'm not happy about getting cut short. Not happy about getting cut short. If anyone wants to see me on my OnlyFans channel, I talk only footy. Okay.
Only footy.
See you tomorrow, guys.
Have a great one, boys. We'll see you in the
Hashtag.
morning. See you, boys.
See you in the morning.